Can you be ticketed for your bumper sticker? That's what we're going to talk about today in just a moment here on the Driver Trainer channel. Hello everyone and welcome to the Driver Trainer channel. I'm so glad you can join me for another exciting video. Last week I discussed vehicle objects that may be prohibited. Now today I want to talk about a topic that hinges somewhat on this topic but goes much deeper, and that's the message that may be displayed on your vehicle. And whether or not you may legally display any message you feel like displaying. If you have not already, be sure to like, subscribe, and share these videos with as many people as possible so we can make sure everyone is squared away and ensure that Uncle Sam quits generating additional revenue from unsuspecting motorists. Also, if you have any suggestions for any topics for future videos or any driving issues you would like me to address, be sure to leave them in the comments down below. So let's get right into it. Now, many of you may be asking this question, can you legally put anything you want on your vehicle because the First Amendment allows me the freedom of speech? Well, many people believe the Constitution gives them the unlimited freedom to display any message or image on their vehicle that they want to display. Now, the purpose of today's video is not to rain on your free speech party, but it's just simply explain where constitutional protection begins, where it ends, and why some decals may still violate the law. Full disclosure here, I'm not a constitutional scholar in any way, shape, or form. I'm just merely giving you the facts behind what you may or may not display. This is not intended to be political in any way, shape, or form. In fact, this is nonpartisan, so whatever side of the aisle you're on, this has nothing to do with either side of the aisle. This goes both ways for both parties or any party. And I do believe in the Constitution. I just want to get that out there to everybody before we begin this video. Now, the First Amendment protects a great deal of speech, and I am a proponent of anybody being able to exercise their First Amendment right. In fact, the First Amendment generally protects freedom of expression from government censorship, and that is why we have the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights in the first place. Now, for instance, you wouldn't be able to drive around in most Asian countries with a decal on the back of your one-ton pickup with a negative depiction of that nation's leader. You wouldn't be able to drive around Russia and communicate with the KGB with international sign language, if you know what I mean. These activities are perfectly legal and protected in the good old USA. This protection extends to many types of vehicle displays, including political messages, religious messages, social commentary, advocacy for causes, satire and humor, sports teams, and hobby-related decals. And the way the Constitution works is that government officials generally cannot prohibit speech simply because they disagree with the viewpoints or because someone finds it offensive. Now, being controversial doesn't automatically make a decal illegal, and I do want to mention several points regarding the display of personal expressions on a motor vehicle. First off, the First Amendment is not unlimited. Just because constitutional rights exist alongside other legitimate government interests, certain categories do have limited or no First Amendment protections, including true threats, incitement to imminent unlawful conduct, fraud, as well as obscenities as described by law. The same would apply if you were in a crowded movie theater. You do not have a legal right to stand up and shout fire when there is no fire. And I can provide other examples of where you do not have First Amendment protection to just say whatever you want. It's basically, going back to what I said earlier, it basically keeps the government from infringing on things they don't want to hear, or what someone else may not want to hear because of their feelings or because they're offended. That's what the First Amendment to the United States Constitution of Freedom of Speech is all about. Now let's talk about decals that imitate government or regulatory agencies, as those markings can actually be prohibited. because this is an area where problems can arise when a decal resembles an official government marking. And the examples would include a fake inspection sticker, or a counterfeit emission decal, or fake registration sticker, because basically you're putting on a sticker that certifies something legal that's not true. Or how about unauthorized handicap permits, or decals resembling law enforcement agencies, or stickers suggesting emergency vehicle status, or fake military or government credentials, or hazmat placards. Now, the hazmat placards, maybe that sounds innocent, and I've seen a vehicle with Halloween decor one time and had those radioactive placards. Now, that may sound like simple decor, but those placards are actually regulatory because it represents a particular hazard inside the vehicle. And even if you are not a commercial vehicle, the minute you put a decal like that on your vehicle, it now becomes treated as a commercial vehicle because those are limited to commercial vehicles only. And if you are not hauling that particular product, now you have a big problem. Now, it's possible you might get pulled over and be asked to remove it, or you can face fines that are a lot steeper than you expected. These are different from ordinary expression because they do resemble the official decals that are intended for the official identification or certification of something legally regulatory. The issue is not the message. The issue is that they may mislead the public, they may impersonate government authority, they may interfere with law enforcement, or facilitate fraud. And depending on the circumstances, these displays may result in citation or criminal charges. So you want to be careful with placing decals like I just mentioned previously. Many people assume that offensive language or profanity automatically makes a decal illegal. Generally speaking, that's not always true. The examples would be political insults, crude humor, profanity, insulting options. Now, these messages are constitutionally protected even when they offend others, because courts have repeatedly recognized that offensive speech is frequently protected by the First Amendment. Now, let's talk about decals that could depict nude or other sexual content. Now, this is where you can really cross the line. And the answer on whether you can display such message or not is not always straightforward. Now, there is a difference between artistic, which would include the iconic mud flap emblem, if you know what I'm talking about, as well as suggestive images, as well as sexually explicit images, and material that legally qualifies as obscenity. Now, the reason why that would not be constitutionally protected is because it's being displayed in public. Now, it is constitutionally protected to possess the material, but it's not legally constitutional to display it publicly. For instance, these images that are prohibited are usually what we consider adult content. In other words, in order to display it, say on TV or in a magazine, it must include a disclaimer that the material contains such images. All right, moving on. Now, even though what you may be displaying is perfectly legal, it's possible you can still be stopped. So even if a decal is ultimately protected speech, an officer may investigate if there's a reasonable belief that another law has been violated. And examples include possible counterfeit registration decals or obstructed registration tags, fraudulent government markings, or equipment violations. So you always want to be squared away in those areas, and a traffic stop does not necessarily mean the display is unlawful. It may simply allow the officer to determine whether a violation exists. And if you believe the stop is unlawful and should not have happened, you do have the legal right to take him to court under the guidelines of a First Amendment violation. I would refrain from raising a big ruckus about it or making a big stink about it as much as possible. I know some of you may think, well, we need to do what we can to mitigate the traffic stop, and you can do whatever you can to mitigate as much as possible, but you're going to be very limited to what you can mitigate And your best course of action is just be respectful and maybe maintain your Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights to improper searches as well as the right to remain silent. And make sure you video record your interaction with law enforcement and then take it to court later and let the courts decide what the course of action will be. Now, if you're the type of person that may be into First Amendment audits, and I will tell you, I do watch a few First Amendment auditors. I think they're great videos, they're great education material. If you're not a First Amendment auditor and you don't understand how the First Amendment auditing community works, don't try to be what you're not knowledgeable in. The people who do First Amendment audits usually know what they're doing. I mean, I wouldn't say that with every one of them, but most of them know what they're doing. Most of them are ready for what may or may not come. They know the talking points in most cases, and they're usually ready to take the heat. And most of them with their YouTube channels usually get enough monetization along with donations to take care of their legal battles when they do encounter legal battles. So just keep that in mind. But then, of course, if whatever you feel like doing, you do what you feel like you need to do. I'm not going to be here to stop you. Now let's talk about practical consequences beyond the law. So even when a decal is legal, there could be practical consequences. That includes maybe a road rage incident because you have that bumper sticker that somebody didn't like, or public complaints. People keep calling the police on you because of your sticker, or they figure out the police cannot do anything about it, so they find other things to complain about, find that nitpicky thing to call the police about, so they can use that as a form of retaliation. Maybe employer disciplinary action because you park your vehicle in their parking lot with that bumper sticker that they don't like. Or negative impressions during business transaction, especially if you're using your vehicle for business. Maybe you're an outside sales rep for a company. You pull up into a place of business with that bumper sticker most people don't like. Or additional scrutiny during a traffic stop, where somebody with no bumper stickers that's speeding may just get their ticket or warning and be on their way, whereas you have your offensive bumper sticker and the police may want to start scrutinizing you whether it's lawful or unlawful, but yet they don't like it, so they want to go further into the traffic stop. So understanding legality and wisdom are not always the same thing. While something may be legal, you want to be wise on what you display. Now let's talk about best practices for vehicle displays. Now, before applying any decal, you probably want to ask yourself, does it imitate an official government marking? If it does, you probably should not place it on your vehicle. Or could someone reasonably mistake it for a regulatory decal? Does it obstruct required equipment? Could it violate another vehicle law? Also, is it worth the potential attention you may attract? If the answer to any of those questions is yes, you might want to reconsider displaying it. So in closing, the First Amendment protects a wide range of expressions, including many bumper stickers and decals that others may disagree with or even find offensive. But it doesn't protect fraud, impersonation of government authority, or violation of legitimate vehicle equipment laws. Understanding where that line is drawn can help you exercise your rights while avoiding unnecessary legal problems. Now, if you find this video informative, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with others. And don't forget to drop your comments down below on what you'd like to see on future videos. Here on the Driver Trainer channel, we want to break down every vehicle regulation and safe driving practices so you can become a more informed and responsible driver. I do want to thank you for watching, and as always, be safe out there. Thank you.